Has Gypsy asked you to kill anyone else?
No.
Okay, she just wanted you to kill her mom.
Yes.
Okay. And how did Gypsy ask you to do that? Did she ask you to do that in a text message, on a Facebook, or in person, or something different?
Well, it was more than once. I mean, you had Facebook. We would talk about it on there. We would talk about it even on Texas.
Okay.
When you analyze a crime from the past, it's difficult to assess what is truth from what has become part of the myth or legend about the heinous act. If only there was a way we could go back in time and be a fly on the wall. Well, that's what we are going to do in this video. We will take you back in time, where you'll have a front row seat as we reveal the hidden truths and expose the lies behind the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. Welcome back to Becca Scoops. My partner is a veteran detective, and I'm Becca, a former RN. This is The Timeline, Part 5 in our series on Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Imagine you know nothing about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. It's June 15th, 2015, and you happen to see this local news report.
They found the mother violently murdered inside their home and Gypsy gone. This morning, the sheriff announced they'd tracked the social media post to Wisconsin.
We have located Gypsy in another state. She is okay. We do have another person of interest in custody.
Friends worried for Gypsy Blanchard, who they say suffers from muscular dystrophy and is wheelchair-bound. Police found her at Charlie Goldammer's home in Big Bend.
As I know, the SWAT team came this morning, took my wife and I out of here. Something with my stepson. Supposedly he did something in Missouri, which we don't believe because he wouldn't hurt a fly.
Goldammer's stepson is 25. He says Gypsy Rose was fine and wasn't in a wheelchair.
There's nothing wrong with her.
So she's okay.
Yeah, she walks and talks and does everything fine. I don't really know anything about her except that he's and her were talking to each other online. It's his girlfriend, and he went down there to get her and brought her back up here. That's about all I know.
It appeared as if no one grieved the death of Dee Dee Blanchard. She was villainized by Gypsy Rose Blanchard's defense team. She was villainized by her own family. She was villainized in every documentary made about the case. The winners write the history books. Have you ever heard that saying? And when it comes to the heinous crime of the demise of Dee Dee Blanchard, the winner is her daughter, Gypsy Rose. Thus, Gypsy and her supporters have written the history of this crime up until now. However, if you dig deep enough in the past, there were those who were mourning Dee Dee's demise, like Sue Bordelon, one of her close friends from Louisiana. Sue actually saw the disturbing Facebook post Gypsy made in real time, saying, "That bitch is dead." Sue was lamenting Dee Dee's murder on social media 24 hours after her death. Bordelon, who was a friend from Dee Dee's years in Louisiana, recalled her as a gentle person who helped her through rough times. She was very kind, especially with kids, Sue said. She added that Dee Dee was very generous and masterful at getting all the kids free tickets to events. Sue recalled their friendship of games, movies, shows, pizza nights, and other activities. "We overlooked the con stuff," Sue said. "I'm not judging, just stating facts. It's hard, as a poor person, to get help. Some folks just do what they gotta do. Dee Dee had a rough life. She was a survivor, poor darling. She got what they needed." According to Sue, most people close to Dee Dee in Louisiana knew about the con. What about Gypsy's father, Rod, and his wife, Christy? The day after Dee Dee died, Sue posted on social media, quote, "Y'all, I love this family and have for 15 years. But those of us in Louisiana know that Gypsy can walk very well, actually. She also did not have hair loss from chemo. They shave it for 11 years. She never had leukemia. I'm an RN. She's 24, not 19." End quote. Miss Bordelon was adamant that Dee Dee did not suffer from Munchausen by proxy. Dee Dee never hurt Gypsy ever, she told law enforcement. She was running a con. She gave Gypsy things other kids can only dream of. It may have been wrong, but I can't judge her. These reports were buried after the mainstream media bought Gypsy's lawyer's narrative about the crime. Immediately after it was reported that Dee Blanchard was found murdered in her home, a small group of netizens, including those who knew Dee and Gypsy, took to social media. Most of those posts were preserved from June 2015. Neighbors came out of the woodwork to reveal Gypsy was out of control after she discovered social media in 2009. According to one police warrant, beginning in 2009, Gypsy had 5 email addresses associated with different Facebook accounts that she created. They included fake profile names like Emma Rose and Devonna Wolf and Snow Gypsy, where she reportedly liked pictures of sadomasochism. In fact, one anonymous source, who was interviewed just days after the murder, told authorities a couple of years before she met Nick Godejohn, Gypsy was quite active on Facebook, where she propositioned older men in their 30s and 40s. These older men were part of a group in Springfield, Missouri that attended cosplay sci-fi conventions. The source revealed, quote, Gypsy hit on other men in the group via Facebook, men in their 30s and 40s. They may not feel comfortable coming forward. I know they rebuffed her, but still, end quote. Around 2010, Gypsy first encountered a man named Dan Glidewell on Facebook. He was associated with these sci-fi conventions, and she befriended him. Gypsy was 19 or 20, and Glidewell was in his 30s. According to Glidewell's friend and roommate, Gypsy fixated on him rather hard. During one convention, Gypsy ran off with an older man, possibly Glidewell, to his hotel room. Dee, along with their friends at the convention, went in search for Gypsy. They found her in this hotel room, quote, getting ready to be intimate, end quote. Dee was so mortified and utterly embarrassed by her behavior, she made Gypsy apologize to everyone who had been searching for her. A few weeks later, Gypsy showed up without her wheelchair at a neighbor's door, begging them to give her a ride to Mercy Hospital, where Gypsy claimed her boyfriend, Dan Glidewell, was a patient who had gotten badly beaten up. It wasn't until after Dee's death did the neighbors see Gypsy on the local news and realize she was the strange girl in the wig that showed up on their doorstep. This is the infamous event where Gypsy goes back to Dan Glidewell's place and Dee shows up. According to Dan's roommate, he wasn't really into Gypsy. In fact, Dan was literally shocked Gypsy showed up at the hospital. Gypsy insisted on accompanying Dan back to his place, attempting to insert herself into his life. Dee shows up and Gypsy screams and yells at her. Dee screams and yells. However, Gypsy returns home with her mom. When Dan, who was married, made it clear he would not be taking Gypsy to live with him in Arkansas, she became enraged, later telling her close friend and neighbor, Aaliyah Woodmansey, quote, "Can I tell you a secret? Back in 2011, I ran away from home. I met a pedophile online. He took me back to his friend's house and made me sleep in his bed, but when he got handsy, I freaked out," end quote. When Dee had confronted Dan at his house, she called him a pedophile, lying about Gypsy's age, saying she was only 15 years old. Gypsy was actually 19 at the time. It appears Gypsy adopted this lie after Dan refused to become her knight in shining armor. By all accounts, after 2010, Gypsy had become obsessed with social media as a means to make contact with men. Dan Glidewell has testified to her penchant for BDSM role-playing that she introduced him to. Dee's health is slowly becoming an issue. The tension between the mom and daughter duo is evident to anyone who knows them. They are both well aware of what is at stake concerning the con they are running. They know the cops have made one visit and Gypsy has exposed them running around town chasing men without her wheelchair. In October 2012, Gypsy instigates an online relationship with an autistic individual named Nicholas Godejohn. Nick Godejohn isn't a liar. That's the consensus by most viewers after watching his interrogation video. He's just not sophisticated enough to pull off lies. He tells the truth to a fault. Nick talks about how quickly Gypsy pursued him during his interrogation. Within 4 days, Gypsy had him on the hook.
We got comfortable to where we, about like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like the way that we clicked is it made it seem like we somehow just knew we were right for each other.
Okay.
So we, like, what was it? 4 days, I would have to say. 4 days later, we started a relationship together. Yeah.
And so your relationship, what kind of relationship was that you guys started?
It was one of those committed ones.
Okay.
Good manipulators are able to quickly zero in on what makes a person tick. Gypsy mirrored Nick back to himself, making him believe they were meant to be together. Nick also shed light on Gypsy's part in the medical fraud, telling the detective Gypsy was fully aware she was, quote-unquote, pretending to be a disabled teen who was 16 years old when Gypsy was actually 23.
Time during any of this whole situation that's happened, did Gypsy ever have to be in a wheelchair?
Yes.
Okay, when was that?
That was only when she was living at home.
Okay.
Otherwise, me and maybe like five, I would have to say five other people knew that she could walk.
Oh, okay. Why didn't nobody know she could walk?
Her mom wanted everyone thinking that she was like 16 the entire time. So, yeah, she felt kind of trapped on a wheelchair when I actually was trying to encourage her to be able to walk more and more and more.
Okay, so she can actually walk.
Yep.
And stand and do everything.
Yep.
But her mom wanted her to use the wheelchair and pretend like she was 16?
Yeah, 16 and disabled, yes.
Okay, so what would she do to pretend like she's disabled?
Oh, gosh, I can't even answer that question.
Between 2012 to 2014, Gypsy continues to flirt with other men online. However, according to sources close to the case, she has no luck at getting any of these men to take her seriously except to engage with her sexually online. We do know that by May 2014, Gypsy introduces Nick to this narrative that her mom is an obstacle, that Dee Dee will never let them be together. According to those close to the case, Gypsy talks to Nick about a few ideas she has. One was to get pregnant. Then, if all else fails, Dee Dee would have to go. Nick was utterly baffled by Gypsy's plans. He sought advice from his sister, asking her how crazy she thought Gypsy was for wanting to kill her own mother. His sister told him she would not kill her own mother or anyone else unless they try to harm her first. Nick relates that Dee Dee treats Gypsy, quote-unquote, unreasonably poorly. Then he assures his sister this probably won't happen. It's a last resort. January 2015 starts off with a bang as Dee Dee and Gypsy venture to Disney World thanks to Make-A-Wish Foundation. This is the same VIP trip Gypsy gushes about to the good-looking cop after her arrest. You can see this in our part 1 of this series. Gypsy takes pics dressed as a Harry Potter character. One witness claims to have met them at the amusement park. The witness claims Gypsy was having a great time, bragging about having VIP access. Back from the trip, and probably low on funds, the mom and daughter duo post a new GoFundMe campaign. This campaign account is established to help them to get to Sarasota, New York to attend a fun-filled pediatric medical conference, even though Gypsy is 23 years old. March 2015 would be a pivotal month for Gypsy and Nicholas. Gypsy has had a rough time online striking out with other men she propositions. According to sources, Gypsy's hypersexualized content drew a certain type of man who had no inclination to be her knight in shining armor. At that point, Gypsy decides to move forward with Nick. She sends him cash to fund a trip from his home in Wisconsin to Missouri. This trip was to meet her at the movie premiere of Cinderella. Gypsy later claims her plan is to bump into Nick at the theater, pretending she does not know him, hoping her mom will find him acceptable to befriend. Nick spoke about how Gypsy led him into the men's room for sex at the theater. Gypsy informs Nick she is a virgin. This is her plan to get pregnant.
Do you know if this is the first time Gypsy ever had sex?
Actually, I do know if it is.
Is it or not?
It isn't.
Okay, so she's had sex before she had sex with you.
She's had sex with me. I actually one when we took her virginity.
Oh, so you guys had sex a different time than this?
Yes.
Oh, when did that happen?
It was in a what the heck was it? It was a theater.
In a theater?
Yeah,
In Springfield or somewhere different?
Springfield.
Wow, did her mom know?
We kept it from her mom.
Okay. Where did you have sex at in the theater?
It was in a bathroom.
Okay, in a girl's bathroom or boys' bathroom?
She just took me to the boys' bathroom. I didn't have any choice. I just went right into the boys' bathroom. I guess she's okay with it.
Okay.
According to Gypsy, Dee Dee is appalled by Nick's behavior at the movie theater, which squelches the couple's plan to be together. However, we have to note a tabloid story from back in 2015, which reports this narrative may not be true. The article states that the Blanchards' neighbor, a man named Kevin Corbisser, claimed Dee Dee gushed about Nick and Gypsy dating. She approved of the pair, saying, quote, "They're so in love," end quote. Of course, this is a tabloid piece, so we leave it up to the viewer to make up their own mind. However, law enforcement close to the case claim they also were looking into this angle, that the trip to Missouri to the movie theater was an alleged test by Gypsy to see if Nick, who she rightly assessed had issues as he is autistic, would and could actually get to Missouri from Wisconsin on his own. This was like a dry run. Another interesting side note, Nick also admits Dee Dee liked him when she met him. This goes against Gypsy's claim that Dee Dee loathed Mr. Godejohn.
How long ago was that?
That was back in March
Back in March of...
this year.
Oh, okay, so you were in Springfield before.
Yep.
And did her mom know you were here?
No, I got to meet her mom in person for the first time.
And was her mom nice to you, or?
Yeah, she was really nice to me. And
Okay.
then,
But if Dee Dee liked Nick, then the murder would never have to happen, right? Maybe this trip was never about getting Dee Dee's approval, but was truly Gypsy's way of testing a dry run. According to sources close to the case, after she assessed Nick could make it to Missouri, Gypsy became hell-bent on getting rid of her mother. This wasn't about the freedom to date a guy. Gypsy had had a relationship with Dan Glidewell and was ready to run away with him. However, he rebuffed her. This wasn't about medical abuse. Gypsy told Nick she was pretending to be disabled. She was part of the con. The final plan to commit murder begins to form in May 2015. How do we know this? Dee Dee calls the cops to report $1,000 missing from her safe along with some narcotics, Vicodin and Xanax, in May of 2015. Gypsy was the true culprit, stealing the cash to fund Nick's second trip. Gypsy decided her mom's murder would take place in the beginning of June, and the cash was to fund Nick's bus ride and motel stay. However, she would still need to convince him to help her do the deed. On May 27th, about 2 weeks before Dee Dee's demise, Gypsy Rose begins what pediatric neuropsychologist Dr. Theodore Wasserman describes as an online campaign to manipulate Nick Godejohn into doing the heinous act. From our research, we were able to break down the most important of their text messages. Gypsy appears to utilize a roller coaster technique on Nick that keeps him off balance. Even some people without a disability would be hard-pressed to deflect her manipulations. On May 21, 2015, law enforcement found that Gypsy created a new Facebook account called Nicholas Bella Rose. This account was set up less than a month before Dee Dee's demise. This Facebook profile was created by Gypsy for solely one purpose. This is where she would finalize her plans about the crime, where she would manipulate Nick to do the deed.
She just wanted you to kill her mom?
Yes.
Okay. And how did Gypsy ask you to do that? Did she ask you to do that in a text message, on a Facebook, or in person, or something different?
Well, it was more than once. I mean, you had Facebook. We would talk about it on there. We would talk about it even on Texas.
Okay.
Gypsy was very careful about where she communicated about the murder. She never refers to it outright in text messages. That's why that Facebook account is created. She would use that account to cajole Nick into doing the deed, then delete the account believing she had covered her tracks. She also destroyed her laptop, believing there would be no evidence to implicate her in the crime.
Did you guys start communicating other ways other than that website? Since you're a couple now.
Yeah, we tried to do a site called meetme.com,
Okay.
but that gets confusing because there's so many. I have so many friends on there.
Okay.
And then other than that, what else was it? There was they did do Facebook for a little while too.
Facebook, okay.
Yeah.
And what is your name on Facebook?
It's my name is Godejohn.
Okay, and how about hers?
Well, actually, she got rid of hers recently.
Okay.
During this lead up to the crime, with Nick, Gypsy would become enraged over nothing and scare Godejohn and then come back apologizing. For example, on May 27th, she writes, quote, "My feelings won't change, and though I have freakouts, I always come back to you, my love. I'm sorry I scared you," end quote. On May 29th, Gypsy writes to Nick via text message, quote, "Darling, can you meet me online? We need to talk about our plan," end quote. The line, "meet me online," is Gypsy telling Nick to meet her on their new joint Facebook account, Nicholas Bella Rose. The plan up until this point has been how they will be together. However, Gypsy is about to activate another plan, the plan to kill her mom. It's important to note at this point, Nick believes he is coming to take Gypsy away. Gypsy has not convinced Nick that Dee Dee has to go. That all begins to change starting on May 30th. On May 30th, Gypsy writes, "I was supposed to get pregnant in a week and a half." Nick responds, "Okay, hun, so what are you saying?" Gypsy replies, "I feel sad I'm not. Could you wait like 10 months for plan B?" Nick responds, "So you want me to get you pregnant again?" To this, Gypsy changes the subject. She never answers Nick about the pregnancy issue. This non-response is Gypsy informing Nick the plan to get pregnant is over and done. On May 31st, Gypsy begins a passive-aggressive campaign to get Nick to agree to the heinous act. It's important to understand she wants it to seem as if he comes to this conclusion himself. The first thing she utilizes is the deviant role-playing talk. On May 31st, Gypsy texts, "I need to tell you a secret, hun." Nick answers, "Go ahead, dear." Gypsy writes, "I never stop sucking Pediasure from a baby bottle." A few minutes later, at 7:33 p.m., Gypsy turns up the heat on Nick, writing, quote, "Darling, I'm 1,000% with the plan," end quote. Nick is utterly confused. He has no idea what she is talking about. "What do you mean, dear?" he asks. It appears they take the conversation to Facebook, to that Nicholas Bellerose account, and those records indicate Nicholas wasn't on board with committing the heinous act. The texts resume a few hours later on June 1st at 1:19 a.m. with Gypsy writing, "So you won't end this." To which Nick replies, "I'm not saying anything besides it's a waste of time." That response enrages Gypsy. Quote, "Get your ass back here now," she texts. "As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to rip you a new one." When Nick does not respond to her anger, Gypsy writes, "I didn't mean it when I called life with you trash." Again, this is a relationship roller coaster for poor Mr. Godejohn. Nick responds, "I know, dear, you scared me though. I thought I lost you." To which Gypsy writes, "You almost did." This takes place on June 1st. It's obvious Gypsy is in control, using these tactics to get Nick into a mental place where he is scared he is losing her. Remember, this conversation started with Gypsy informing Nick she was 1,000% in with the plan, and Nick does not understand what she is referring to. This enrages Gypsy. So she rages at him over on their Nicholas Bellerose Facebook account, showing Nick she is very displeased with him, calling a life with him trash. This is like a terrible parent scolding a child by threatening to desert that little kid. This type of roller coaster relationship leaves Nick, especially with his autism, totally off balance. He'll do anything to stop the uncertainty of the roller coaster. Of course, Gypsy's only goal is getting Nick to agree to do the murder. The next day, June 2nd, is pivotal. This is the day Gypsy will reel Nick in. Remember, Gypsy has threatened to end the relationship, but then changed her mind. Gypsy texts Nick the same line she did on May 31st. Quote, "I'm 1,000% in, hun," end quote, she writes. She adds, "I'm truly ready." Nick responds, "Why do you say that, baby?" It's hard to know if Nick truly gets what Gypsy is talking about. He is questioning why is she saying that. Additionally, this proves Nick was no mastermind of this crime. One could argue he is having a hard time grasping exactly what she wants him to do. He's utterly confused. This is due to Gypsy's blatant passive-aggressive tactics, wanting Nick to believe he is the one who comes up with the idea to murder Dee Dee as their only option. Gypsy then says, quote, "Because I finally realized you are my everything, and I will go with you and live our dream," end quote. Nick responds to this with 2 words, "Okay, hun." Clearly, he is not excited. Gypsy then goes on to profusely apologize about how she mistreated him. It's the roller coaster. She begins love bombing Nick after she put him through a night of hell. She's reeling him in. Quote, "Darling, I'm so sorry about last night. I'm completely different. I'm your woman," she writes. Nick responds, "Okay, dear," indicating he is still very leery of Gypsy's intentions after her horrible behavior. Gypsy adds, "And I will truly be your everything. I know I've been up and down, but darling, in 9 days, I'm yours forever." Obviously referring to them being together. Gypsy continues, "And yes, I'm going to fight like hell for us, baby. Do you forgive me, darling?" Nick still isn't convinced. Gypsy has scared him by her erratic behavior the night before. Gypsy deeply hurt him, calling him trash. Due to his autism, he doesn't understand the game she is playing, the roller coaster game. "Baby, you have a couple of questions to answer online," Nick informs her. We've learned these questions are about running away together. Whatever the questions were online, Gypsy somewhat satisfies Nick, and then she informs him she, quote, trashed her old, slow laptop, end quote. This is odd. However, law enforcement believe this was Gypsy's way of getting rid of evidence. She tells Nick they can just use one computer together. Nick's upset about the laptop, telling her, what about all the memories of us on your computer, sweetie? I saved them, but fuck you. Gypsy freaks out again, writing then in all caps. You don't get it, do you? Never mind, she writes. Gypsy wants Nick to say the quiet part out loud first, that it's time to kill Dee Dee. Dear, what the heck, he replies. Nick is back on the Gypsy roller coaster. He is clearly not 1,000% in. Due to his autism, Nick may not be grasping Gypsy's instructions about the urgency of what she wants done correctly, and she is fuming. Gypsy is thoroughly passive-aggressive with Nick. She wants the murder to be his idea, not hers, and his inability to grasp this is causing her to become enraged. She then gaslights Nick. I tried being there for you, she writes. All you do is make me cry. I give you everything. Just try and understand I was saying how much I need you, and you basically called me a faker, Gypsy texts. Gypsy is upset. Nick did not believe her life was in danger because her mom is abusive. He called her a faker. I didn't push you away. All I did was explain, and you told me off, Nick responds. Nick was explaining via the Facebook account maybe they can just run away together, and Gypsy lit him up, screaming, you don't get it, do you? Gypsy also degrades Nick further, texting, who puts up with your overbearing ways, your ridiculous political shit? As for Nick's stupid political shit, we found Nick's personal Facebook profile, which tells us about who he is. Nick was into animal rights, saving our homeless vets, promoting a living wage for workers, all very noble and peace-loving causes. Gypsy calls this stupid political shit. Gypsy then asks Nick to take the discussion to their joint Facebook account. An hour later, the Facebook conversation is done, and it hasn't gone Gypsy's way. Nick has not come to the conclusion that Dee Dee must go. According to Dr. Theodore Wasserman, who analyzed all of their communication from the text to Facebook and Gypsy's videos she sent him, Nick has been urging Gypsy that she can just run away with him. Gypsy lays a guilt trip on thick, texting, you are safe from me now. I did the right thing, meaning not making him kill Dee Dee. She then gaslights more, saying, you are free, sweetie. You don't have a bitch of a girl now. This is so disturbing to Nick after 2.5 years together. Gypsy has become a lifeline in his mind. Then, this roller coaster technique pushes Nick over the edge, and he wants to die. There is real pain there from an autistic individual who isn't aware of the rules of Gypsy's dysfunctional game. And what does Gypsy do to reel him in? She goes to the role-playing sexual in nature. Nick knows this role-playing game very well. Gypsy spent a couple of years teaching him how to play this game. Gypsy decides to morph into this character called Bella, a girl who calls Nick her daddy. Bella tells Nick she wants Daddy to come and get her, come and save her from the Wicked Witch. This culminates in Gypsy telling Nick to go back to the Nicholas Bella Rose Facebook account to finalize their plans. Nick admits Gypsy asked him multiple times to murder her mother.
If that's the case, if she did ask you.
Yeah, she did ask me.
Okay, and she asked you more than once? Did she ask you why you were here?
She asked me more than once.
These texts from May 31st through June 2nd are numerous and at all hours. Gypsy has Nick going from the text back into the Facebook account. He gets little sleep. She takes him on a 48-hour roller coaster ride and breaks down his defenses, threatens to withhold love and break up. One video from this time frame shows Gypsy in another role-playing character called Ruby, who threatens Nick with taking Gypsy away for good.
One card that I have over you. Gypsy.
Gypsy continues to gaslight Nick, As Nick becomes more and more anxious at her erratic behavior, including Gypsy tearing him down, calling him trash, when he is hurting the most, she offers him a lifeline in this sexual role-playing game, which he understands. Not wanting to upset her and feeling he can't do anything right, Nick is clearly in an abusive relationship and is ripe for the plucking. Gypsy then tells him go back into the Necklace Bella Rose Facebook account one more time. And at that point, the deal is sealed. According to anonymous sources, Gypsy ups the ante during a pivotal Facebook discussion by informing Nick Dee Dee is abusive. Quote, I can't just run away. My mom will find me, and last time I tried this, she said she would kill me. Darling, only you can save me. We have to do this if we want to be together. No other way. At that point, after several days of this roller coaster game, Nick reluctantly agrees to help Gypsy take Dee Dee out. Attorney Nathan Chapman, who helped lead prosecutor Dan Patterson put Nick in prison for life, had this to say.
This was Gypsy's idea, but the defendant on June 10th was ready to kill.
And prosecutor Nathan Chapman showed the jury some of the text messages that Nicholas sent to Gypsy. Is your mom a light sleeper? It's my evil side doing it. He won't mess up because he enjoys killing.
And these texts show he was enjoying it. He was looking forward to it. He was excited about it.
Is that the truth? Is that what those texts show? Or is Nick, as Gypsy relentlessly manipulated him to do, role-playing evil Victor, who is the character matched with Gypsy's evil side of Ruby? That's the truth. Not Nick is enjoying this. That's just absurd. Yet that's what these attorneys made the jury believe about Nick. There is one thing Gypsy loves to do with the men in her life, attempt to corner them and trap them, and she is addicted to the drama. She also relishes making them jealous. This is Gypsy's tactic of keeping them under her control. Before Gypsy married Ryan Anderson, she created drama by communicating with her ex, Ken Urker, and then lying to Ryan about it. Gypsy loves causing her partners pain by making them jealous, making them believe they are lucky to be with her. This gives her a feeling of utter control. People saw Ryan as overbearing, but what they need to consider is that Gypsy is a liar, and she also loves to gaslight people. Ryan had a reason to be off balance and suspicious.
Better knowing that he's truly sorry for hurting me, but it doesn't change anything. Like, I married Ryan. I have a marriage now. I'm wearing this wedding ring that belonged to Ryan's mom. Like, I have a commitment to my husband. I want to keep that. But what's going to happen when Ryan and I have an argument?
What she did to Ryan, keeping him on this jealous roller coaster, she also does this to Nick 4 days before the crime. To ensure Nick will go through with her plan, Gypsy employs this jealousy tactic to cause Nick to believe she has other options. Gypsy texts Nick, "Honey, I was wondering, say I wanted to have sex with the guy before leaving town. Could I?" She adds, "It's just a curious question, LOL. Okay, so I know you're territorial, but I'm being tempted sexually." Why would Gypsy text such a thing to Nick? What purpose does this serve? For Gypsy, who appears to have an alleged antisocial personality disorder, interactions with people are only beneficial if they serve her purposes. This threat about another man is Gypsy's sick way of ensuring Nick shows up and aids her in carrying out the crime. Gypsy uses sexuality to control men. When she knows a man like Ryan or Nick is totally besotted with her, she leans into that and uses it as a weapon against them. She actually abhors their weakness to her. The more they want her, the more she loathes them. However, she also exploits it to her advantage. If Nick doesn't show up and help her with the heinous act, she'll be meeting another man. She writes, he agreed to meet up. We are going to get coffee at this cupcake place Thursday, so that will close that. Nick tells her he will be in the area to make sure nothing happens. Quote, I told I'll be around in the area to make sure he doesn't do anything, and you have to accept that, end quote. This is masterful by Gypsy. She is letting Nick know she has a date to meet this man she wants to have sex with. It's planned for Thursday, the day after the murder. If Nick fails to show up, Gypsy is telling him, I have this other man waiting in the wings. Ryan Anderson, Gypsy's estranged husband, said, quote, Gypsy always gets what she wants every time, end quote. June 8th is the day Nick takes the long bus ride from Wisconsin to Missouri. Gypsy wants to ensure he gets on that bus, so she texts, Darling, I'm sorry I didn't say goodnight. I was made to sleep on the porch with bugs. I peed in the bushes. It's been rough. This is her way of confirming issues she has disclosed to Nick in their joint Facebook account, namely that her mom has become abusive, so abusive, and when she becomes abusive, she makes Gypsy sleep on the porch. Those close to the case claim that neighbors never saw Gypsy sleeping on the porch. Gypsy uses this false narrative to back up her allegation she is being abused physically. This is another passive-aggressive technique reminding Nick things are getting rough at home. After these texts, Nick immediately reassures her, Baby, I called the cab company and everything is going well. On June 9th at 5:30 a.m., Nick informs Gypsy, Update, I'm in Springfield, baby. He adds he is walking to the motel where he checks in. By 7 a.m., Nick's mom is worried sick. She senses something is not right. She messages Gypsy on Facebook. I need to know my son is okay, she writes. Gypsy has no problem lying to Nick's mom, messaging her back. He's perfectly good, Mrs. Stephanie. As Nick leaves the motel and takes a cab ride around 1:40 a.m. on June 10th to travel to the Pink House on Volunteer Way, Gypsy does an odd thing. She informs Nick he doesn't have to wear the gloves. She texts him, and you may not need to put on the gloves because we will sink it so it's never found. According to police reports, Dee Dee is gone by 3 a.m. Nick is a truth teller. As we have stated, he just isn't capable of lying with impunity. Due to his autism, the detective quickly steers him to come clean about the crime. We do not believe Nick, whose IQ is 82, had sufficient mental capacity to agree to his Miranda rights. However, we did analyze his interrogation and found some issues that are jaw-dropping. Nick admits the knife was Gypsy's idea. She also shoplifted the weapon from Walmart.
She somehow found a way to get one at Walmart. I don't know how she did, but she did.
So you didn't bring a knife from here?
No.
So when you got here, she had a knife?
Yeah.
Nick is pretty adamant he only stabbed Dee Dee 4 to 5 times total, which goes against the evidence that shows she was stabbed 17 times. He is also sure Dee Dee was not covered up with blankets. This too is different from the crime scene, which shows her covered in various blankets. Gypsy totally sanitized the house to make it appear she was not living there. This backfires when no one finds her mom and she does those Facebook posts. Gypsy realized the cops would now be looking for her, and she posts that third Facebook post, quote unquote, the girl is dead too. Gypsy was also shaving her legs in the bathroom while Nick was killing her mom. This was her idea. We know this from previous text messages from that night. Gypsy refers to Nick as he, meaning Victor, his role-playing character.
Her private part.
Okay.
And her legs.
Okay, she wanted to shave her private part and her legs?
Yes, for me.
Okay. Has she ever done that before, or is this something new?
Usually her mom does not let her shave her legs.
Okay, so her mom doesn't let her shave her legs?
Yeah.
Does her mom let her shave her privates?
Her mom never seemed to care about that before.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So how did you know she wanted to do that for you?
Because she did it.
Okay.
That's how it's kind of...
What did you do while she's shaving her legs and stuff?
I waited for her.
Okay. And then she gets out of the bathroom? Is her legs shaved and everything's shaved? And then what happens?
And then, we, start to clean up, the ground and everything around.
Okay. Clean up, what do you clean in the house?
Yes.
You're like vacuuming and dusting and stuff like that?
Cleaning up, such as, anything that has memories of her. That's actually what we were doing.
I don't understand, I'm sorry.
Like, anything that had, she took, some pictures away, and she actually threw them in the trash. She tried to get rid of things that would, give you guys the idea that she really lives there.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Gypsy lied to Nick about her sexual history. He also makes the point that Gypsy was hell-bent on having sex in the men's bathroom at the movie theater. She texted she wanted to get pregnant.
First time Gypsy ever had sex?
Actually, I do know if it is.
Is it or not?
It isn't.
Okay, so she's had sex before she had sex with you?
She's had sex with me. I actually wanted when we took her virginity.
Oh, so you guys had sex a different time than this?
Yes.
Oh, when did that happen?
It was, in a, what the heck was it? It was a theater.
In a theater?
Yeah.
In Springfield or somewhere different?
Springfield.
Wow, did her mom know?
We kept it from her mom.
Okay. Where did you have sex at in the theater?
It was in a bathroom.
Okay, in a girl's bathroom or boy's bathroom?
She just took me to the boys' bathroom. I didn't have any choice. I just went right into the boys' bathroom. I guess she's okay with it.
We know Dan Glidewell testified he had a sexual relationship with Gypsy 2 years before she knew Nick. One shocking claim that is overlooked involves the Cinderella movie premiere meeting with Dee Dee. Nick claims Dee Dee liked him, which backs up the neighbor's claim from the tabloid.
I got to meet her mom in person for the first time.
And was her mom nice to you? Or?
Yeah, she was really nice to me.
Gypsy has maintained she never entered the bedroom. The detectives were also very curious about the Barney doll left by Dee Dee's body. See the red arrow in the pic.
I don't know how else to put it, but she might have had clothing and all different things in there.
Okay. Do you remember ever seeing a Barney doll or a? It's like a purple dinosaur.
Yeah.
Where did you see that at?
It was not in. I could have sworn I was in her room. I think that was in Gypsy's room.
In Gypsy's room?
That's what I remember.
Okay. But do you remember seeing a purple dinosaur? The Barney dinosaur or whatever?
Well, I know she did watch it, but I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. I'm thinking about this now. No. I don't remember seeing one now.
You don't? Okay.
No, I don't.
Nick does not recall it being in the room. However, it was found right next to Dee Dee's body. It was so out of place. One detective said it was placed there by a perpetrator as a source of comfort. We may never know the entire truth. However, we have concluded not only did Gypsy fully brainwash Nick into the crime, there are also indications she went into Dee Dee's room at some point. Gypsy claims she was abused and traumatized by her mother, who she says was medically abusing her. However, in a video from a live TikTok, Gypsy claimed her trauma happened at age 10 and at age 16.
Is that my trauma, my most damaging trauma happened when I was 9 or 10. And so that explains why my personality, when I react to something, I don't respond, I react. So when I am reacting to a situation, there is 2, let's just say, ages. That's how she explained it to me. There's 2 ages that I am. Because when you have trauma, you are stunted at the point in which that trauma happened. And so for me, it was 10. So when I react to a situation that I am triggered by, my 10-year-old self reverts back to that mentality of a 10-year-old. So some of the things that I say and do reflect someone much younger than my 32-year-old self. With also that being said, some other traumas happened when I was 16. So when I'm reacting to a situation under stress or I feel controlled, that defensive, snarky behavior that wants to clap back, that wants to defend myself, that wants to say something sarcastic, comes out at that time.
Isn't that interesting? So Gypsy is admitting her overall childhood with Dee Dee was not traumatizing, right? If this was truly a Munchausen by proxy case, if Dee Dee was truly medically abusing her, Gypsy would say, my childhood was stolen. And my trauma started when my mom put me in that wheelchair at 6 years old. From all accounts, Gypsy never indicated her childhood was abusive. It was only after her attorneys informed her of that narrative did she adopt it as her own story. So what's the bottom line? Nick tells the truth, Gypsy does not. Gypsy's true motive for killing her mother is difficult to pin down. However, we can say she did not do it over any abuse. She did not do it because she had no way out. She wanted to do it. She wanted her mom gone, and she spent a couple years plotting the evil deed. And Gypsy's plan worked. Dee Dee's gone, and Nick, who should have been the one to get a sweet plea deal, is not only paying for his part in the crime, but is ultimately paying for the price Gypsy should have paid herself. Gypsy is like the scorpion who asked a frog to carry her across the river. The scorpion promised the frog she would not harm him. Then halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog, and they are both doomed to die. When the frog asks the scorpion why she did it, she says, because it is my nature. Gypsy, the scorpion, was just lucky she got that plea deal. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please like and share. We also really appreciate your comments. We read them all and value your input. Thanks again.